As the Uruguayan curls one in. Oh, Middlesbrough take the lead!
So now that the dust has settled on Boro'S season and I am starting to slightly get over what happened 1 week ago, today I'm going to be discussing Boro'S squad heading into next season, as Boro have recently just announced their return list and have of course let us know what players are leaving at the end of their contracts, the ones who are leaving the club, the loan players who have departed, and of course going back to their parent clubs. So I'm going to be discussing all of that, as well as the players who are still here under contract, and predicting who might stay, who might leave, and which of the loan players might also come back. So yeah, we're going to start off with the players whose contracts have run out, then we're going to discuss the current first team squad, before discussing the loan players who are returning to the Boro this summer, and finally the ones who might be coming back. So first up we have Luke Daniels, and I'm going to just say to all of the guys who've been let go and if contracts have run out and are now free agents, I wish them all the best of luck in their future endeavours. But first up we have Luke Daniels. No surprise here. I don't think there's any surprise really for any of the players who have been announced to be leaving as a free this summer. Luke Daniels is the first. A decent backup goalkeeper, hasn't really featured at all I don't think under Clarke, and didn't feature much under Wilder either. He maybe came in for a few games, I think, when Lumley was bad, which was quite often, to be fair. But yeah, I think he's a decent number two. I think he'll go to another championship club maybe and be a good backup. Maybe a first team goalkeeper for a lower championship side, but he doesn't suit the way Clarke wants his goalkeepers to play. I don't think he's good with his feet, is what Clarke wants his keepers to be, essentially a 11th outfield player. So yeah, no surprise to see Luke Daniels leave, and it's just one of them moves that hasn't worked out. Likewise, we have Darnell Fisher. A bit of sympathy for Darnell Fisher because he hasn't featured, I don't think, under either Wilder or Clarke. I think his last appearance, barring the cameo he made a couple of home games back at the end of the season, I think was under Warnock, which is crazy. But of course, Darnell Fisher had a horror injury that he actually suffered at home, which wasn't a on-pitch or football-related injury, and it kept him out for 2 years. So, you know, he come into the squad, was signed under Warnock, had a great debut against Norwich, and I honestly thought, we've got a decent defender here. But it's just one of them things where he's just not played for 2 years. Clarke has not had probably any time to really see what he can really do, and with his contract coming to an end, it's just the perfect time to part company. So yeah, it's a shame for Fisher, because I think out of the four here, he probably had potential to fit into the squad maybe, but yeah, things have just not worked out, and again, I wish him all the very best. But what I will say, I bumped into him and Marc Bola at a local snooker hall a couple of months back, and he's a good snooker player. So yeah, if all things fail, football-wise, Darnell, yeah, try and make it as a snooker player, mate. Next up we have Grant Hall, another player who's not featured under Clarke, has been out on loan all season. Another player who's not really going to fit the system, and to be honest is really unlucky with injuries. So I think even if we wanted to bring him back, thought he could maybe fit in to Boro's style of play, I just don't think it was worth investing and giving him a new contract when his injury record is as bad as it is. I don't actually think Grant Hall's that bad of a defender, to be honest with you, but yeah, it's another one where we're at a crossroads. It's kind of aligned that his contract's up, he's been out on loan, again, Carrick's not really had a chance to work with him, so it just seems natural, so yeah, no surprise there. And finally, Joe Lumley. Yes, our number one goalkeeper for last season, who was actually a part of quite a few historic results when we beat Man United in the FA Cup via penalties, to which he didn't actually save any of the penalties. It was all just down to United's terrible penalty taking that day, missing the target continuously. As well as, of course, our huge win over Tottenham, where in fact he made quite a few good saves. So on his day, Lumley can actually be a decent shot stopper, but again, he does not suit the way Clarke wants his keepers to play, and if I'm honest, makes more mistakes than he really should, and he does often just make some absolute howlers, as he has done on loan at Reading this season. So yeah, it's no surprise to see Lumley is going, which means two keepers have left us on a free. One has gone back to his parent club, which means goalkeepers is now somewhere we desperately need to invest in, which I'll talk about more later. On to the first team squad then. These are the players who are confirmed to still be here, contracts are still ongoing, everything is all good. But which of these players might actually still leave to either be sold or be loaned out elsewhere. First up we have Liam Roberts, backup goalkeeper. Now I guess our number one goalkeeper with Steffen leaving, so yeah, nothing to suggest Liam Roberts is going to go anywhere. I think he'll probably stay at the club. I think he'll probably stay as a number two as well, with us getting a first choice goalkeeper in this summer, and I think he'll remain number two, but I would like to see him play a couple of pre-season games, and you never know, if he impresses, he might at some point become Boro'S number one. Matt Clarke, a tough one, but I'm going to put him down as staying as well. He's been unlucky with injuries as well this season. Come in with quite a bit of hype, player of the year at his previous two clubs, I think, and for all, you know, from what it was worth, looked like a very good signing for what we signed him for, and we've just not really seen enough of him, so I'm not going to judge Matt Clarke too much. Unlucky with a back injury, I believe, and hopefully he can come back next season, but I think with Boro's defenders, and the ones who maybe could leave, I reckon Matt Clarke will stick around, and we'll see him probably feature a little bit more next season. Dael Fry. Now this is an interesting one because Dael Fry, of course, Boro lad through and through, has been at the club for ages now. Made his debut back in 2015, which is insane. It feels like he only made his debut like last season, but he's still what we look and consider as a young player. He's been at Boro for so long now, but for me, I think Dael Fry, is there potential that a club could bid for him? Maybe. But I don't think so. I think he'll be here next season. I think he's a huge, important defender, one I think we have missed towards the end of the season, and one I can't wait to see fitting back in the team again. So yeah, I'd be surprised if Dael went anywhere. I can't see many sides bidding too much for him, so I'm going to put Dael Fry down as staying. Tommy Smith, I think he'll still be here next season. I think he's a solid right back. Do I think he should be our first choice going into next season? Probably not. I think he was a bit suspect at times towards the end of this season. Maybe he's not the best right back in terms of ball playing. He did give the ball away a couple of times. Mistakes have led to a few goals recently. So I think as a solid defender who we could utilise maybe to close out games or as a good backup, he's definitely worth keeping, but I do feel like his position is under threat and we will bring in a first choice right back in the summer, but I do think Tommy Smith will stay. Now Dijksteel, I love Dijksteel, I really do, and I think he's a fantastic player, gives his all, gives us something extra down the right hand side. I think he's a little bit more attacking than Tommy Smith, and he's really good at covering and winning the ball back with interceptions and stuff. So he's a very useful asset, Dijksteel, but I'm not convinced he'll be here next season, and the reason is that he's not featured under Clarke that much. So whether it's Clarke not fancying him not taking to Clarke's style of play, I don't know, because when he did come on, didn't he, against Hull, I think, along with Jones, and made such a great impact that day, and I thought maybe this was the start of his sort of re-emergence or resurgence as a Boro player, but then he got sent off, and I don't know, I'm not convinced with Dijksteel. I'm on the fence. I'm going to say he could leave. If a bid come in, I don't think Boro would say no, but I don't think it's one that they'll be actively trying to replace either or get out of the club. So I think a lot of factors could determine whether Dijksteel's here next season. I hope he is, so I'm going to be on the fence and say he could leave or he could stay. I think the same could be said for Paddy McNair. I think a lot of people maybe thought that he was a sure to leave this summer. He's not playing in his natural position. He's not naturally a centre-back of a back two. I think, there's been times this season where he's been questionable and put under, I think, too much scrutiny from Boro fans at times. But, you know, at the end of the season, finished the strongest and was probably one of our best performers going towards the end of the season with how he dealt with Gyökeres. So there's potential there for Paddy, but I honestly do think if Dael Fry's fit, he plays alongside Lenihan. And again, I think Boro might invest in another centre-back, which, you know, where does that put McNair? Is he going to be put into Boro's midfield? I don't think there's any sign of that happening. So yeah, honestly, it's another one where if a team bids for McNair, Clarke might say, you know what, you've got a better opportunity here to go and play in your natural position somewhere else, get game time, and be a first team player, because I honestly believe with a fully fit squad, I don't see where McNair starts in this Boro team. So yeah, it's another one where he might be worth keeping, because injuries, as we've seen at the end of the season. He's a good player to slot into midfield, slot into defence if needed, but he's not really going to fit into Boro's starting 11 if everyone's fully fit. So if a bid comes in, I can see it being accepted. So yeah, another one, Paddy McNair. Could leave, could stay. We'll see. Darragh Lenihan, this is a simple one for me. I think once Howson leaves, retires, whatever, whenever that may be, he's our standing captain and has grown into being one of our best players, I think, considering his shaky-ish start to the season. He's been one of our best solid performers. So for me, absolutely, Darragh Lenihan has to stay and will stay, and I think is a future captain. Marc Bola. Now, Marc Bola is another one who has featured when needed, but is not going to be our first choice left back, I don't think. Even with Giles leaving and going back to Wolves, I don't think Bola is someone Carrick looks at and goes, you're my first choice left back. So again, I think Bola will leave, if I'm honest. I'll edge towards him leaving this summer. I think if a club comes in, like I mentioned with McNair, I think Carrick might just say, you know what, you're not going to be a first choicer here. And you've got a chance to go and play regular football elsewhere. And I think Boro are already actively looking to get a left back in, whoever that may be, whether it's Giles, who knows, getting him back. But yeah, I don't know. Bola, I don't know quite where his strengths lie in this Boro's team and in this style of play. And I can't see him playing under Carrick unless we have injuries in that position. So he's certainly someone who, if a bid comes in, I think he'll leave. Isaiah Jones. Now, I stirred up quite a bit of controversy on Twitter a couple of weeks ago, or maybe it was last week after the final game, when I said that Jones and his Boro career might be over, given how he's kind of performed, and you know he's hit and he's missed, and he come into the game on the final day in the playoff semi-final, and yeah, barring his cameo against Hull, he's come back into the team, showed glimpses, but hasn't particularly been that great. There were a lot of people on Twitter who were very defensive of Jones, saying I was quick to kind of, you know, get rid of him or usher him out of the door or whatever you want to call it. And although I get that, I think Isaiah Jones is one where if a bid comes in, I think Boro will take it. Honestly, I do. Again, I don't think he features in this Boro side if fully fit. We saw in the playoff second leg. I think Forss has that spot. I think Forss gives you goals. I think he maybe is more suitable to what Carrick wants from that player in that position, and I just don't think Isaiah Jones does it enough for us. I'm going to be honest, I'm going to say what I said on Twitter. I think he had a great first season last season. I sympathise with his off-field issues that he's had with becoming a young dad and everything else. It doesn't sound like it's been easy for him, but you know, if he's still around next season, I'm not going to complain, I'm not going to moan. I think he's a fantastic impact player to bring off the bench late in a game to stretch a tired left back, but I don't think he's one that will start many games under Carrick, and honestly, if a decent bid comes in, I think Boro will accept. So honestly, if I put my neck out, I don't think Isaiah Jones will be here next summer. I think if the chance is there for Boro to get a fee for him, I think they'll take the chance now, because I think his stock has certainly dropped from last summer to this summer, where we could have maybe gotten 10 million for him last summer. I don't even think we'll get 5 now. So if a bid comes in, I think Boro will accept it, and I don't think Isaiah Jones will be here next season. Couple of quick-fire ones now. Dan Barlaser, absolute will stay, will be here. Fantastic player. I'm a bit gutted we haven't seen as much of him, but the potential there for a great playmaker is there for all to see. He'll be a big player for us. Can't wait to see more of him. Same with Riley McGree, a mainstay, one of our most important players on the left-hand side. Absolutely been unbelievable since the World Cup, so yeah, he has to stay as well. And same for Jonny Howson, the man who keeps getting younger, Benjamin Button. Our club captain has just got a 1-year extension, so he's not going anywhere. And I'm glad, because we've missed him in recent weeks, and his experience is invaluable. So yeah, Jonny Howson, another one who I think is staying, and should stay, and will stay. Matt Crooks. This is interesting. Now, I think there's a potential for Crooks to leave. I think if we'd have got promoted, I'd have said 100% Crooks will have left. But since we're going to be in the Championship again next season, I think he'll stay. I think Crooks will be here next season. I think he is a fantastic player to have around the squad, a very useful player who can step into midfield if necessary, step in up front as a number 9 if necessary. And I think he's one of them players who is just a utility player. You know, he's not going to start, I don't think, very often. Is he suited to the way Carrick wants his midfield to play? No. Is he suited to the way he wants his striker to play? No. But is he someone who can slot in to multiple positions if needed and can be brought on to change a game. Yes, and the number of times Matt Crooks has gotten us a late goal, a late winner, a late equaliser, popped up with a crucial goal, I think he's a bit underappreciated in that department. So for me, I think people might be quick to say Matt Crooks could leave. I hope he doesn't, and I don't think he will. I think Carrick will see the value in keeping him, and I think Crooks will be here next season. Same for Hackney. I think Hackney has been a revelation, an amazing breakthrough prospect, and yeah, he's another one who I think will stay. There's interest apparently from Premier League clubs, but that's always a thing. They'll monitor him, but nothing will come of it, and I think Hackney will stay and will be even better next season. Pharell Willis, a player who's featured off the bench a couple of times, not much to say for him other than I think he'll be loaned out next season, so I hope that happens for his development. Marcus Forss, a must stay, a fantastic player, love him to bits. I think he's been fantastic. He's got double figures for us this season despite having a few injuries, and like I said, is Carrick's first choice on the right hand side. So yeah, for me, Forss has to stay, and I'm delighted because I think he's brilliant. Chuba Akpom. Oh, now this is interesting. I think Chuba will be here next season. Now, of course, he's had the season of his life, and apparently Premier League clubs looking at him. I can see him in a Crystal Palace shirt already. I can just see it. And there's so many Premier League sides where I can just picture Chuba Akpom. So I wouldn't be surprised if Borough got a bid and cashed in on Chuba. And I think the rumour is 15 million is what we're valuing that. And honestly, if Borough got 15 million, I'd take it for Chuba. Because, you know, he's done it once this season. He's had a great season and it's amazing. And I'm over the moon for him, and he's one of the nicest, most humble guys ever. And seeing a good guy, you know, do this well later on in his career is fantastic, and I'm just over the moon for Chuba, and I would love nothing more for him to stay, and if it was up to me, I'd have him here next season. Would he replicate what he's done this season next year? I'm not sure he would, but I certainly think within Carrick's system, he's perfect. He's like the perfect integral cog that ticks this whole Borough system over, and he's such a good number 10, if that's what he is. But he literally is integral to how we play, the way he picks the ball up in the middle, the way he can, you know, free roam around, pick up the ball on the left side, the right side, hold it up, turn his man, playing Giles, Forss, whoever it may be. Could we replace that like for like? I'm not sure. So for me, I'd keep Chuba, but if a bid come in for 15 million, I think Borough would take it because they can use that to reinvest in the squad like they did last summer when Tav and Spence left. So it's an interesting one. I think Borough will hold on to him, but it could get to a point to which they are forced to accept a bid that's too good to be true. Because if it was up to Chuba, he said himself, you know, he's praised Carrick. He's basically dedicated his entire season and success to Carrick. So I don't think Chuba will want to leave. I don't think he'll want to work under anyone else other than Michael Carrick. So he's not going to push for a move. I don't think Borough are going to push him out the door. So it all depends on what happens externally. So I'm on the fence. I think he'll be here, but there's a high chance he could leave. And if he did, I wouldn't be too upset, because Borough could use that fee quite nicely, and I would be delighted to see Chuba in a Premier League team next season. As for the loan players who are returning and whether they will have a part to play in Borough's squad going forward, first up we have Matthew Hoppe, who went out to Hibernian. We signed him last summer. It was another one of them signings under Wilder that didn't really make sense. When he featured, I wouldn't say he was all that good. I mean, I'm all for giving players a chance, but I don't think Matthew Hoppe will feature next season under Carrick. He's not featured at all under Carrick so far, so I can't see that changing, and I think he'll find a permanent move elsewhere, or maybe another loan, but I think Borough will be maybe trying to move him on this summer. Brynn, a fantastic goalkeeper, one for the future. Wouldn't even be against him stepping into the first team, if I'm honest, but I do feel like it could still be a season too early for him, so I think Brynn will be loaned out again, but I think it could be to a championship side this time round, and I think maybe next season, or the season after, I could definitely see him being Borough's first choice goalkeeper, because he is a great prospect, and one I can't wait to see flourish in this Borough team in the future, but I do think he'll probably be loaned out again next season. I think I'm going to say the same for Josh Coburn. Of course, had a fantastic breakthrough year last season under Wilder. Went out on loan, of course, to Bristol Rovers. I think got double figures. So I think his development's coming quite nicely. Whether he'll be thrust into Boro's starting 11 next season, I can't see it. I think Boro will invest in that area. So for me, once again, a bit like Sol Brynn, I think Coburn will leave on another loan, possibly to a lower-end championship squad or championship team, which I think would be great. Hayden Coulson. Now, this is an interesting one because he's been at Aberdeen. He's just signed a new deal at Boro. So there's clearly plans for him to come back. And I've always liked Coulson. I think he's a fantastic little left-back. And would he be Boro's first choice? I don't think he is at the moment. If Boro faced a disaster where they didn't sign a left-back this summer, would I have Hayden Coulson as our starting left-back? Yeah, I would, quite happily. So I think it depends on what Boro do in the market. I think if we don't sign a left-back, we can't get Giles back or something, I would not be against Hayden Coulson starting in this Boro side. Do I think we can get better? Would I choose Giles over him? Yes. And if so, I think he'll be loaned out again. But if Hayden Coulson is in the Boro side this season, I'm not going to complain. Martin Payero. Oh, Martin Payero. Boro's beloved South American son who is adored by Boro fans even though he's barely done anything, let's be honest. He was signed under Wild at the start of the season before, has only got the one goal. There's certainly a player in there, and I guess I'm kind of torn because I want to see his full potential in a Boro shirt because I just can imagine Payero under Clarke. It could be something really, really special. You know, from a dead ball specialist, you know, dictating the midfield, pinging the ball. I just think he could be amazing. But it's whether he gets the opportunity to do so because he's just not settled in England. He's went back, he's played for Boca Juniors and loan this season. Oh, I don't know. A lot of players adore Payero, and there's a big divide on whether the hype is worth it. A lot of fans are simply quite harsh and just say, listen, he's done nothing. If he was an English player, you wouldn't care. But because he's South American, people still think he's amazing. And I can see both sides of the argument. I wouldn't be bothered either way. If Payero is back in a Boro shirt this season, I would love to see him given another chance. If it doesn't work for him between now and January, then I think it's safe to say we can draw a line under it and say, okay, this isn't for him, and he can be loaned out, maybe sold in January. But I do kind of want to see him back in Boro's squad this summer and given the first 6 months under Clarke, just to see what happens, because I honestly believe Clarke being a midfielder as well could get something special out of Payero. It all depends on if he can settle and get a grip of the language. That's the only thing. So yeah, I have a feeling he'll be sold because I think Boca have the option to extend his loan into a buy. I think the ball's very much in their court. So if Boca want him, Boca will get him. I don't think Boro have much say in this, despite him being a Boro player. So yeah, I'd love to see him a part of the Boro squad, but sadly, I think he'll be sold to Boca Juniors this summer. And finally, the loan players who have left. Now, this is probably the toughest part of the video because, so many of these loan players were amazing. And seeing them leave and seeing their farewell posts on social media this week's been awful. One of the best batches of loan players I think we've had in years, maybe the best. Unbelievable, and they say never fall in love with a loan player. I fell in love with mostly all of them this season. So, of which of them could come back? Starting with Cameron Archer, unbelievable player, has just been a revelation since January. His goal involvements with goals and assists been amazing. I don't think I've seen a better finisher in a Boro shirt for a long time. Every time he's in front of goal, you just think, right, he's going to score. But will he be back next season? I don't think he will. I think Archer's destined for a Premier League loan next season. I'm not sure if he'll get into the Villa squad because they're going to be in Europe now by the looks of things. So, you know, you need a bigger squad in Europe, so that could be an option for him. But maybe Villa are going to look to step up another level in terms of their recruitment. But even if he's loaned out, I think it'll be to a Premier League team. And I think Archer has gotten Sheffield United loan written all over him. It's Sheffield United. It just is. Everything is telling me he's going to Sheffield United. So as much as I'd love it, I don't think we'll see Cameron Archer in a Boro shirt next season, at least. Ryan Giles. Now, there's been rumours already that Ryan Giles is being looked at by Boro permanently, and I think it'll happen. I think Boro we'll sign Ryan Giles. I don't think it's going to be that expensive. I think we'll get him for maybe 3 or 4, maybe 5 million at a push. But there's rumours that Wolves are happy to see him move on. And of course, Wolves are apparently in a bit of financial fair play shit and need to sell players. Their manager might leave because they're not going to be given the option to buy players. I think next season could be a really, really, really tough season for Wolves, given their apparent issues with FFP. So they need money. They need to sell players. I think they'll sell Ryan Giles to Borough, and I think he'll be back here next season as a Borough player. And if that's the case, I'm going to be so freaking happy. Alex Mowatt. Now, if you'd have asked me this a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month or two ago, I'd have said no. West Brom, he's going back. I'm not bothered, couldn't care less. But how he stepped in for Howson was quite special, and the way he performed towards the end of this season was pretty good. And I don't know if it was Mowatt finally getting to grips with Boro's style of play, Clarke getting a grip of him from a coaching point of view, don't know, but I started to see potential in Alex Mowatt, and I've went from thinking, no, I don't want him back, he's not been good enough, he can go back to West Brom and I don't care, to now kind of thinking, if he was back next season, I wouldn't be that bothered. I'd be kind of happy to see him back next season. But I don't think he will be. I don't think Borough will re-sign Mowatt. I think they'll maybe look at his loan as a whole and think, as a whole, he's probably not delivered enough, despite how well he finished. Recency bias, of course, as I say, is something that can cloud people's judgment, so people might be clouded by his amazing end of the season, but I think overall, has he been good enough? Maybe not, and I don't think Borough will re-sign Mowatt. But if they did, I wouldn't be bothered, but I don't think they will. Rodrigo Muniz, simple, he won't be here next season. It's weird, it's a loan that Borough have chased for a long time. They tried signing him in the year before this season, finally got him here on loan this season. Featured under Wilder, but didn't feature at all under Carrick. I think he wasn't in the squad 90% of the weeks, and again, if we've got a fully fit squad, I don't think he gets anywhere near, so yeah. Muniz, as great as he is, seems like a fantastic character, great guy to have around the squad, never kicked, never screamed, never moaned that he wasn't in the team. Seems like a really good pro, but yeah. He'll be back at Fulham next season and will probably be loaned out somewhere else, but I don't think it'll be Borough. Aaron Ramsey. Now this is a interesting one who I think could be back next season, and I hope he is, because we started to see the potential of Aaron Ramsey towards the end of this season in a Borough shirt, and he was unbelievable. And one of our biggest misses in the playoffs. I honestly believe if we had Aaron Ramsey in the team, he could have been that little bit of a spark of quality who got Borough a goal when we needed it. And it was devastating to see he just couldn't get fit. So I think he'll be back next season. I don't think there's a place for Aaron Ramsey in the Villa side yet. I think they'll definitely want to loan him out for another season. And unlike Archie, who I think is ready to go to a Premier League team, I think Villa will want him to have another full season in the Championship, given that his Norwich spell wasn't particularly great, but his Borough spell was looking great, had lots of potential. So I think Villa will not only look at him going back to the Championship, but will maybe look at Borough as the right squad, the right team, the right club, Carrick the right coach, to get the best out of Aaron Ramsey, because that's exactly what we were doing. It was proof, it was being proved that Borough were probably the perfect place for Aaron Ramsey to develop. He was looking so good under Carrick, so I think if they're going to loan him out, I think they'll look to Borough, and I don't think Borough will think twice about getting Aaron Ramsey back here next season. So I am confident, out of all the loans, he'll be another one who is back next season. And finally, Zack Steffen. Zack Steffen. He's the perfect goalkeeper for Borough. He really is. He's the perfect goalkeeper for Borough's system. Could we get a player or a keeper who can perform in the same way? Probably. Will they be as good? No, I don't think there'll be a keeper out there as good as Zack Steffen. He's grown so much this season. You know, he wasn't that great to start with, a bit shaky, a bit questionable at times in terms of his decision making. You know, his when he would come out for crosses and stuff like that, he would flap at them, and there were a few warning signs at the start of the season, but for me, Zack Steffen has grown into an unbelievable player and a crucial cog in this Borough system. If Borough can get him back, I suggest they absolutely do everything they can to get Zack Steffen back in, but I just have this niggly feeling that we won't. His wages, being at City, are very, very high. Unless Man City can give us a helping hand, we're going to be forking out a lot of money to get him back here. he won't be at City. He's going to be loaned out again. Rumours are it might be a club in Germany. He's played there before. So, yeah. If I was Borough, I'd try my hardest to bring him in. But I just have a horrible feeling Zack Steffen won't be back at Borough next season. And we're going to have to find a goalkeeper who is just as capable as playing this system as Steffen, which won't be easy. But I think Borough can get a better bang for your buck keeper than Steffen. It's just a shame because he's perfect for this system. But I don't think he'll be here next season, unfortunately. So, I've pretty much went through most of Boro's squad. Of course, there are a few youngsters who are out on loan coming back who I've not discussed, but that pretty much covers most of the squad. And overall, we need depth everywhere. I think that's safe to say. To conclude, I'd say Borough, as I say, need a goalkeeper or two. Certainly a first choice goalkeeper. I think we need a first choice right back. I don't think Tommy Smith is good enough to be our first choice right backs. We need some strength and depth there. Maybe even a centre back as well, because we've seen this season if Fry's injured, we've got nobody, and we had McNair to step in, but if McNair had gotten injured, we'd literally have nobody. So, we've got maybe 3 first choice centre backs, and one of them's not even a natural centre back, so we definitely need centre back cover. Left back is another, of course. We've lost Ryan Giles, so if we can bring him in, great. Even if we can add Coulson to the squad as well, I'd love that. I think we've definitely got an option there, but we need more depth there as well. Centre mid's probably the only place I feel Borough are comfortable and don't need much depth. Maybe an addition on loan again could help, but I think we're okay there. I think right hand side, left hand side, maybe. I think we're okay on the right, but if Jones leaves, we'll need someone to cover for Forss. On the left though, yeah, we've got McGree, but again, we could do with a Ramsey coming back in to that side of midfield, so definitely cover maybe on both sides. And of course, the centre attacking mid, number 10, whatever you want to call it, that depends on Chuba. If Chuba's still here, he'll play there, and I'm comfortable we'll be fine in that position, because we've got a couple of players who can rotate and move into that position if Chuba was to get injured. But if he leaves, we'll have to fill that spot. And of course, striker, who replaces Cameron Archer. I think Forss plays on the right now. Crooks could maybe... he could play up front, but he's not going to be our first choice, so we need a forward, and I don't know who that is because, Archer's not going to be back here next season, so we need a striker too. So plenty of work to do for Borough this summer, and I honestly just have no idea how the squad will look come the end of the transfer window. But that's my video, guys, on who I think will stay, who I think will go. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below, especially if you're a Borough fan, and what you think will happen in the window, and your predictions, even if you're a part of another fan base, another squad. Let me know what you think as well. And as always, if you've enjoyed this video, guys, do hit the like button and subscribe for more, and hit the bell so you never miss an upload. I'll be bringing out more football related content over the summer, prediction videos for the new season, etc. But yeah, a big thank you for watching once again, guys. Take care. I'll see you all next time. Up the Borough.